Okay, so what we're going to do today is work on learning how to use the mixer brush to give sort of an impressionistic look to some images, right? You're going to need to grab these 3 files off of Schoology, this brushes file, this tutorial file I'm following along with, and this photo. And when you get the image loaded into Photoshop, just do a double check that you have your window workspace set to painting. We're going to do some painting again today, and then we're good to go. So first thing we need to do, we need to load in those custom brushes that we downloaded. We're going to go up to Window Brushes, if it's not already open. Oh, I closed it on myself. Window Brushes. And when we go over to the Brushes window, we can click on the settings up here and then go down to Import Brushes. All we need to do is find in our Downloads folder that brushes pack that we just downloaded, say Open, and we'll get a little folder here of all the brushes that we need to complete this assignment. So the same thing works if you want to go on the internet and try to find Photoshop brushes. There's lots of sites, like brushking.eu is one, but if you just simply Google Photoshop brushes, there's always things out there to download. Look at all that stuff, Photoshop brushes. Alright, so next thing, we need to go and select the mixer brush, right? We've been using this one. And we're going to create a custom brush preset, because a lot of times when you're trying to do digital illustration, you'll go in and create a couple brushes that you use for most of the aesthetic. So I've got my mixer brush selected, and then I'm going to go and find in this new group the one that is called Round Fan Brush. Round Fan Brush. Okay, so I have my round fan brush. We're going to use this to create a preset as a starting point. So with that selected, we need to go into our brush settings, and we're going to change the size up to 36. We want the shape to be a round fan, bristles down to 35% of the amount of bristles. The length of those bristles need to be longer. We're going to go up to 32%. The thickness is set to 2 now, a little thicker bristles. How stiff are those bristles? Remember, all this stuff is trying to imitate a brush, so we're going to give it a bunch of brush settings, spacing 2%. And then, what is left? We need to click the foreground colors swatch in the tools panel right up here, and we're going to select a medium light blue color. We want, we can specifically give the value, and it says here with 86 red, 201 green, 252 blue, and then say okie dokie. And then the other thing we can do is it wants us to set the type of brush here to just be a dry brush, and then we need to save this. So we're gonna go and choose New Brush Preset from the Brush Settings panel menu. So right here, New Brush Preset. We're going to name it Sky Brush. And then we can go in and say OK. So now we have this new brush we just made. So the nice thing is, because we set all the settings, we set the color, we set how dry it is, we set all the things about this. If we click off of this and pick a different brush, we can just simply, I'll click one that completely changes everything. See, my color changed everything. I can go back here. It remembers everything we need to have this sky brush the way we want it. All right. So, in the first things first, we're going to start doing a little impressionistic painting. We've got our sky brush selected like it asks. Now we're going to paint over the sky, moving close to the trees, just kind of going in here. Right, remember, the idea is to create some sort of impressionism. Now, the only thing I worry about with this image that we've got here, maybe it's a little too close. Oh well. Then I'm going to go and select the clouds brush, and it says use this brush to scrub diagonally in the upper right corner of the sky. We're just going to use this here to, you know, blend in some sky things, some diagonal sky. Okie doke. Now it's time for grass and trees. Now this is kind of hokey, but hopefully as it keeps going it'll look better. We're going to select the green grass highlight brush, And it says paint short vertical strokes over the darker grass areas so they become green grass. Okay, so we're going to just put some strokes on here. Notice what it does when you do that. It takes the green value, mixes it with the brown value. Oh, now it's starting to look not so ugly. It was looking pretty hideous there at the beginning, I gotta admit. So sort of like paint by numbers, if you've ever done paint by numbers before. So, you know, I'm just trying to give it a more grass-like texture. This is where your artistic side gets to come out. Okay. Now, next it says select the foreground tree brush and paint the darker areas of the tree. Okay, so we're going to do that. Come in, give the tree some new darkened areas. We're just trying to create the illusion of texture here. And I'm just making kind of short strokes. If you're feeling very, you know, motivated, you could even go grab a Wacom tablet and see all of this stuff works with a tablet. I'm going to let this kind of blend into the sky. That's going to give me a better effect at the end of the day, I think. Yeah. Okay, we're going. Wow, a lot of time, but you know, looks nice. Alright, so then it says select the tree highlights brush and paint the lighter areas of the tree in. Okay, so tree highlights brush. Oh, first I need to do the background trees brush. Forgot one. Paint the two smaller trees on the side of the painting. It says to use this one for those guys. I guess because it's more blendy, a little bit more faded. I get what they're doing. And they like make this a little bit more impressionistic. We can do that. We can be artists. We can be artists. Alright. Then select the tree highlight brush and paint the lighter areas of the tree. And you know, there's a little room for creativity here. We can kind of go in and add some accentuated points that we think make this thing look nicer. This is sort of like the, what's that thing you do where everybody sits in the same room and tries to paint the same thing? I don't know what that's called. That's what we're doing though. Everybody's painting the same happy little trees. Same impressionistic little trees. Okay. Well, there's the Mr. Cameron rendition. You tell me what you think. Sorry, laptop users, this is probably not going to be the greatest. Go grab a Wacom tablet. Okay. Now, select the brown grass brush. Paint along the brown grass with up and down strokes for the look of a field. Okay. Up and down, it said. I'm not sure I agree, but we'll do what they say. And you know, this is something we're learning a bit about how to use, you know, different brush tools. The thing I can tell you as somebody who's dipped my head in a little deeper than this, you really always want to remember that in Photoshop, it's great to use layers. The thing I don't like about this tutorial maybe is that they're just making us do this all on one layer. The right way to do this, in my mind, do all the stuff as different layers. Layers are your friend. So, okay, we're getting kind of funky. Use the same brush to paint the trunk of the tree. Okay, well, I guess that works. I'm not sure it looks great, but... Now, select the foreground grass brush and paint using diagonal strokes to blend the colors of the grass. Okay. These are my diagonal strokes. Taking up and to the right every time. Wow. And now it says we're ready to file, save, and close the document. We have all done a little color by numbers, but hopefully we learned a little bit about how we can use the mixer brush to take an initial photograph and go forward. Here's the thing I'm going to show you how to do then. Let me close this. Well, I'll do what I need to do just to show you guys the whole thing. I'm going to go in my PDP folder and call this thing landscape. Okay, whatever. Now, let's pretend for a second I'm going to go over and do this again with my suggestions. No, wrong one. File, open, recent, landscape start. Here's the deal. You can kind of do the same thing, but in a more precise way by just coming in here and doing all your different stuff as separate layers. This is how I always do it. And the reason why I do it this way is if I want to spend some time, let's just go in and do exactly the way they taught us to. Paint the sky, right? And I'm going to paint the sky. Whoa. I don't know what happened to that color. It ain't right though. So let's go in and set that the way they had it up here. They want us to do 86, 201, 252 was the color they wanted. So I did this as a separate layer, and I'm going to show you why. We can always come up here to sample on the mixer brush and say sample all layers so that the mixing still occurs. But we'll see why I think it's better practice to do separate layers here, hopefully, as I finish mine up. And notice, this is kind of going crazy, going all over everything. But I can always hide it for a second. Right, so I've got my crazy sky fill. It's blending. Right, but because it's dry, it's not really blending with anything. Lets me also go a little bit closer to the grass, which I always think is a nicer thing to do. And I can even go in here and name that guy Sky. And, as long as I keep this sample all layers thing selected, I can go to my clouds brush. And I can kind of, come in here, do the same kind of sky shading that they wanted me to do. And I can just call that guy Clouds. But see, the nice thing is now that I've done all that stuff, and I'm really thinking, well, I can't see the tree from the clouds anymore. If I come in here and keep following their steps, right? And now I think the next one, did they have me do the grass first? Grass green highlight brush? They're really kind of funny about how they did this. I'm not sure I'd do it this way. I always think build from the background to the foreground. They're thinking, come in here, do all this grass. As long as you have that thing up there turned on that samples all layers, you'll still get the blending that you want. And with the advancements in hard drive size and computer capabilities, it's really not going to hurt to, do this thing as a bunch of separate layers. When I learned how to do Photoshop, that might have hurt my computer. And I think this is where you're going to start to see why this as a technique is a better technique. Because see what I can do on this grass layer. I don't have to worry about hitting the tree. I can let my strokes kind of feel a little bit more natural. We're still getting sort of this textured grass thing they want us to do. I don't have to be as precise because I'm not worried about losing my source image. And maybe they want me to also come in here and muddy up this just so it has some sort of grassy grass texture. I think in the end this will end up with a better composition. I can go in and hide that again. Next up, right, I think is tree. So I'll do the new layer again. Always sample all layers here. And like I said before, the reason we want to do this, and actually for this one, I might want to keep my grass one turned on so it samples the layer below it, so I won't be pulling so much of this blue sky. But notice by keeping them on separate layers, how am I going to do this? Where there's a will, there's a way, I suppose. Foreground tree brush. I guess I do need it turned off. Otherwise I lose my... Well, it was a thought. I mean, if I was really being extra, I could put a mask on the tree, separate the tree, have a layer of the tree that I just put above my blended grass. I still think we're going to have a much better result by comparison than what the textbook says to do, but that's just me. What do I know? So, I'm doing this pretty quick just to try and get it done for you. And then they want me to go do these background trees. I guess I should keep my habit up of a new layer for everything. It is better. Don't get lazy. And then tree highlight brush. Whoa, tree highlight brush, and I think this background tree I didn't put in the correct mood because they're looking a little too stark. So, let's go back to background tree. Yeah, I wasn't sampling. I was being a fool. Wow, abstract art. This isn't abstract, it's impressionistic art. Let's be very clear with our word usage. Again, sample all layers. That gets me those nice blends. We can come in here. I'm going to just kind of figure out where I have some highlights poking through and try to focus on them. Okay, so after I get that done, I just want to go in and grab my brown grass brush. I'm going to come in here. Oh. Again, I want to sample all those layers. And it says make these strokes be up and down, so we can do that. We can do that, we can do that. But, you know, everything within reason here. Up and down strokes, up and down strokes.
Is there anyone available at the end to open a locker room for the girls' softball?
And then finally, a little glass blender. But let's go see what happens when I put all this stuff back together here. Notice the real success of this is that now things like the sky and the grass, they can all kind of live together and be more blended in. And then finally I can grab my grass mixer guy and come in here. So, you know, there's always a different way to do this stuff. Never hesitate to try out more than one way of doing things. Because, you know, maybe there's a combination that's like you do want to see some of that detail poking through from the sky. You can always, you know, play with things like opacity. So there's this same project done about 3 different ways. Have fun.